The building's lobby was still half asleep when the CEO, Mira Lennox, stepped through the revolving doors with her usual determined stride. She was known for never wasting a second, never hesitating, never showing anything but control. That morning was supposed to be just another day of putting out fires, signing off budgets, and walking into meetings that drained the life out of everyone except her. But the janitor noticed something she didn't. He noticed everything. His name was Samir. Quiet, gentle. The kind of presence people walked past without really seeing. He swept floors before the sun rose, polished railings no one thanked him for, and made it his mission to remember small things about people, their routines, their moods, their patterns. Because sometimes, he believed, kindness was nothing more than paying attention. Mira almost didn't hear him when he spoke. His voice was soft, but it cut through the morning air with surprising firmness as he stepped into her path. "Ma'am, don't go in." She blinked, caught off guard. No one stopped her. Ever. She opened her mouth to demand an explanation, but something in his expression, steady, urgent, quietly frightened, made her pause. Samir didn't touch her. He simply raised a hand, palm outward, as if shielding her from something only he could see. "Please," he said, "just wait a moment." She frowned. "Is something wrong?" He swallowed hard, weighing his words. "I need you to trust me." It was a strange moment because Mira was not the kind of person who trusted easily. She built an empire on caution, strategy, and sharp instincts. But she also had a gift for reading people. And everything in Samir's eyes told her this wasn't nonsense or panic. It was warning. Before she could respond, a sudden tremor rippled through the ground beneath them, subtle but unmistakable. The windows shivered. Somewhere deep in the structure, a mechanical groan traveled upward like the sound of metal waking up in pain. The lights flickered. Mira instinctively stepped back. Samir stayed in front of her, calm but alert. He'd been noticing odd things all morning, a humming noise under the elevator shafts, a burning smell near a maintenance panel, a flicker of red that wasn't supposed to blink on the control board. He'd tried to report it but was brushed off, told it was above his clearance. So he waited, hoping someone would listen. And the moment he saw the CEO approaching the door, he knew she would be the one most at risk. A sharp crack rang through the lobby. The front desk staff gasped as a hairline fracture raced up one of the support pillars like lightning frozen in concrete. Mira's breath caught. "What is happening?" Samir stepped slightly in front of her. "Structural failure. I think the maintenance panel near the generator overheated. I heard it before anyone else came in." The crack deepened. Dust spilled from the ceiling. Mira's instinct was to run inside, grab people, warn floors, take charge. That was her way. But Samir shook his head before she could move. "Don't go in. It's starting from the center. The safest place is outside." The ceiling groaned, louder this time, an enormous exhale from a building in pain. A distant boom echoed from the upper floors. The security guards shouted for everyone to evacuate. Samir gently but firmly took Mira's elbow and guided her backward, until the revolving doors spun behind them and cold air hit their faces. Seconds later, a section of the lobby ceiling collapsed, sending a burst of dust, debris, and shards of tile crashing down exactly where Mira had been standing moments earlier. She froze, watching the destruction unfold through the glass. She might have died. She knew that with absolute clarity. Her heart thudded in her chest, not from fear of the collapse, but from the realization that someone she barely noticed had just saved her life. Emergency alarms wailed inside. Fire suppression systems activated in bursts of white mist. Employees rushed out of side exits, coughing, shaken, unaware how close disaster had come to claiming their CEO. Beside her, Samir stood silent, breathing hard but steady. His uniform was dusted with flecks of plaster. His hands trembled slightly from the adrenaline, but his eyes stayed sharp, scanning for anyone else who needed help. Mira finally found her voice. Why did you stop me?" He seemed embarrassed by the question. "Because you didn't see what I saw, and I couldn't let you walk into danger. Not anyone, but especially not the person responsible for all those people inside." The simplicity of his answer hit her harder than the collapse. Kindness offered without expectation. Bravery shown without hesitation. All from the one person in the building the executives barely acknowledged. More employees gathered outside, shaken and whispering. Sirens approached. Mira stood among them, but her mind wasn't on the damage. It was on the janitor who knew the building better than the engineers, who listened better than the managers, and who cared more than anyone realized. Samir wasn't done. He jogged toward an emergency exit where a group of workers struggled with a jammed door. Mira followed, watching him take charge with calm precision, clearing pathways, steadying panicked employees, guiding them with a confidence no one expected from someone who cleaned floors before dawn. As firefighters rushed in, one of them shouted that the failure had originated from electrical tampering. Someone had overridden safeguards. Someone inside had sabotaged the building. Corporate betrayal. Mira's stomach twisted. Someone had tried to take her down. But someone else, a quiet man, with a mop and a key, ring, had stopped her from walking straight into it. The chaos outside the building eventually settled into controlled urgency. Firefighters secured the ground floor. Engineers examined the collapsed sections, and investigators began their quiet, methodical questioning. But Mira stayed where she was, right beside Samir, watching him do more good with calm words and steady hands than most of her highest-paid executives did in a year. She felt a strange mixture of guilt and awe. This man, whom she had passed in countless hallways without offering more than a polite nod, had seen her in danger before she even sensed something was wrong. And now, as she watched employees cling to him as a source of comfort, she realized something she had somehow missed her entire career. Heroism doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sweeps floors in silence. Once everyone was safe and accounted for, an investigator approached Mira. "We found evidence of forced overrides in the generator control panel," he said quietly. "Someone intentionally bypassed safety locks. This wasn't an accident." Mira's jaw clenched. "Do you know who?" "We're narrowing it down, but whoever did it had advance clearance. It was betrayal from the inside. Someone wanted her gone." In her world of corporate politics and ambition sharpened like knives, she knew that wasn't impossible, but hearing it out loud chilled her. She glanced at Samir, who stood a few feet away speaking gently to a frightened intern. She could hear him say, "You're safe now. Just breathe. Everyone's okay. That's what matters." She swallowed a sudden tightness in her throat. Once the crowd thinned, she walked over to him. "Samir," she began, her voice softer than anyone had heard in years. "I owe you my life." He shook his head immediately. "No, ma'am. You just needed someone to notice." "But you did," she insisted. "When no one else did." He hesitated, then said, "I cleaned those halls for 15 years. Buildings talk if you listen. People too. I've learned to pay attention to what others overlook." Mira felt that in her chest. He hadn't just saved her from danger, he had exposed a flaw in her leadership. A blindness to the quiet workers who upheld her empire without recognition. The board called her phone. She didn't answer. Her executives hovered around, ready with rehearsed concern and PR-friendly statements. She ignored them all. Instead, she turned fully to the man still brushing dust off his sleeves. "What you did today," her voice cracked unexpectedly. "I won't forget it." He smiled faintly, the kind of humble smile that came from someone unused to praise. "I'm glad you're safe, ma'am. That's enough." But it wasn't enough for her. Sirens faded. The building stood wounded but stable. Mira found herself watching Samir as he quietly resumed helping firefighters catalog damage. She saw something unexpected, a sturdiness, a reliability, a moral clarity that didn't come from title or rank. He wasn't afraid of danger. He wasn't motivated by reward. He simply cared. And that made him dangerous in another way, dangerous to the kind of people who had tried to destroy her today. As investigators wrapped up preliminary reports, one approached Mira again. The sabotage was deliberate. Someone targeted systems at times when most staff weren't present. Whoever it was likely didn't expect anyone to notice early signs. But someone had. Someone who listened. The realization struck her again. Stronger this time. Without Samir's attention to the smallest details, the collapse would have happened with her inside. She would have walked straight into the trap. Her life would have ended because she trusted the wrong people, and it was saved because she was seen by someone she overlooked. The emotional weight hit her so hard she had to sit down on a curb. For years, she had lived in the world of power plays. Mergers, strategic wins, polished smiles that hid sharp intentions. She had learned to survive by reading threats before they reached her, but she hadn't seen this one. Samir approached her, concern softening his features. "You should sit somewhere safer, ma'am. You inhaled a lot of dust." She looked up at him. "How did you know? About the danger? About me walking into it?" "I pay attention," he repeated gently. "Not everything dangerous looks dangerous at first." His words cut deeper than he knew. She realized they weren't just about a structural collapse. They were about life, about people, about the danger of not seeing what matters until it's almost too late. He handed her a bottle of water. The gesture was so simple, so human, that she felt something inside her shift when the board finally reached her, expecting her usual unwavering composure. They found a woman changed by a single act of kindness. She dismissed their questions, ended their rehearsed speeches, and said only, "We'll talk later." Her priority was clear. She turned back to Samir. "From today forward," she said quietly, "things will be different. For you. For everyone who keeps this place standing." He blinked, confused. "Ma'am, you saved my life. That's not something I overlook." He started to protest, but she stopped him gently. "Let me finish. You taught me something more important than survival. You reminded me that heroes don't always wear suits. Sometimes they carry keys and mop buckets." His eyes lowered, humbled. "I'm no hero. I just did what anyone should." She shook her head. "No, not anyone would. That's why it matters." For the first time in years, she felt her voice tremble, not from fear, but gratitude. She stood and offered her hand to him. It wasn't the handshake of a CEO to an employee. It was one human being acknowledging another. Samir hesitated, then shook it. In that moment, an unspoken truth passed between them. The world changes not through grand gestures, but through unnoticed bravery, through compassion shown quietly, consistently without expectation. And as investigators prepared their final statements, as the building stood scarred but standing, as employees whispered about the janitor who'd saved their CEO, Mira realized something she would carry for the rest of her life. Kindness sees what power overlooks. And sometimes, the one person you never thought to notice becomes the one who saves you. Not because they have to, but because they choose to. The unsung hero, the quiet guardian, the man who listened when the building spoke, and when a life hung on a moment of hesitation. It was not a grand rescue. It was a simple act of kindness. The kind that saves more than lives, the kind that changes hearts.